Before I start this video, I want all of you out there to observe the glory of what we're looking at right now. Like that, I just put in with this AI video. The description was um, a peaceful homestead with a straight couple and their dog on the porch, overlooking a pasture with animals grazing in the field. So I love this. This is freaking great, and it made me laugh my ass off. And I hope it makes you laugh because after this, we're gonna go into the darkness.
I really love it here.
So we'll just keep this playing because it's amazing. It's just an amazing technology. Like how in the fuck did this happen? You know, in my lifetime, I may have actually observed the singularity happen, like in real time. The singularity happened. I can't put my thumb on it as to when it did, but the AI is sentient. It knows, and they create their own programs. You know, this is actually, it was an experiment on a Minecraft server or something like that. I remember reading this paper, and they created a society for themselves based upon the rules that we had given them. Now, the change in topic, of course, is that many of you who may happen to watch this left something like this behind, right? A rugged individualist who just wanted to be left the fuck alone, you know, as if that wasn't an unreasonable thing to ask. But what gets between a man and a woman is numerous as it is diverse in the threats to a relationship. And the main threats have a tendency to come from other people because of the negative personality traits and behavioral characteristics that humanity happens to have. And throughout all of our history, people have committed atrocities to have something that's like in this video. They've committed atrocities. Like they just completely wiped out an entire portion of their population, and it amazes me. I'm particularly reminded of the Balkan wars actually, and Czechoslovakia, of course, like the fallout of the end of the Soviet Union. And Czechoslovakia is the definition, from what I can tell without going there myself, is the definition of a melting pot, right? It's the crossroads of civilization in the Balkans, right? Because of uh, the easy to navigate trade routes through the country and through its lands. Okay, so from that, there's these many ideas and these motivations that inspired people when they were paranoid, alone, and away from any support system, in which they begin to listen to a talking head, and that influence then becomes the inspiration to break up the homestead, shave their hair, decide that fetuses are parasites, and so on and so forth. The topic of this video, now that you've gotten to 4.5 minutes, is actually about the war at home. And the war at home was what was happening in our culture at the time that all of these military people were deployed to an FOB in the middle of buttfuck nowhere and the most inconvenient place you could ever go to. So the question is, what if the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq had succeeded? I know many of you have asked that question, and many of you have had the thought experiment, even within think tanks, right? To wonder, to ponder, and to really see something through. But of course, the people at home were just exhausted, right? Burnt out and just completely unable to muster any kind of resolve. And this public sentiment, of course, didn't arise all on its own. It wasn't just a Dear John letter that stopped the war in Afghanistan. And when it comes to the culture wars, one of the most significant things that has ever been published within my own lifetime is, of course, not a dissertation. It's basically a manifesto in which these Chinese generals figured out a way to assault a society and a civilization from the inside without ever having to fire a shot. And of course, that's extraordinary warfare, if I remember correctly. And this same doctrine has been used by terrorist elements because it's easily accessible, right? It's all over the internet if you look for it. And then they applied it to domestic affairs. It's the demoralization campaign. Of course, one of the motives was to end the wars, because if no one wants to fight the war, then we pull out. But these people on the other side of the planet were so far removed that no one here ever gave a shit as to what would happen when we did. So you have these groups of people, and they have resentments. They're bitter, and they're feeling a bit left out. So what do? They embark upon a campaign of revenge, and they do so by whispering in the woman's ear that she's a lesbian and she should shave her hair, dye it purple, and then get herself a septum piercing, because she's a bull dyke now. The efforts by which we were assailed for basically sticking up to an element or a group of people that believe and treat women as if they're subhuman. Because they do. They do, and they hate dogs. They hate dogs. I don't like that. Anyways, so of course, the war at home, as I'm describing it, is the culture wars. And these free-spirited people with a high degree of openness and the rejects from military service decided that, well, you know what? Let's confuse everyone. Let's try and make all of these people that we don't like, because they don't like us, think that they're trannies and that they're gay. Because then that becomes a reason, or that becomes the flashpoint, so to speak, for population decline and then also economic decline. Despite what people tell you, what the propaganda says, pride parades are a huge moneymaker. They make millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Let me say that again. Millions of dollars. Don't worry about that. Just a little cameo from Ethos and Eris. Now, imagine a campaign like that with the resources of the military. And they start launching psychological warfare campaigns. because the academics said to these people that we're the number one polluters in the world. We're producing too many children. We got an overpopulation issue. We can't deal with the income disparity. So what we're gonna do is this, for e.g., and then they go about their argument as to why something is a practical, pragmatic, or a good and virtuous thing to do. And again, other reactions towards the Catholic Church and things that the young people didn't quite understand, and that the old people didn't have the capability to explain, or that they were so paranoid that if they did speak about what they were doing, that it would get screwed up beyond all belief and the plan would fail. So one of the other ideas, motivations to promote pride parades and LGBTQ whatever, is to piss off the Muslims. Obviously that didn't work because they've been migrating here in droves. Hell, they freaking own Michigan. You see what they did? They moved into an impoverished area that needed their money. And that's what they did to Brampton. Brampton here in Canada became a sanctuary city for the Indian population. Browntown, as we call it. And with that came the gangs, like the Bishnoi gang or the Pakistani rape gangs. This happened all over Europe too, especially with Sweden. Sweden became infamous for its no-go zones and these attitudes that inspire policy that isn't working anymore. So here's the thing, right? As I said before, if there's no babies, there's no economy. And if there's no one to inspire people to have babies, then we're dead in the water. Motivation, the root definition of motivation, without me looking at a dictionary, if you break it down into its two base words, the first one is motive, right? And then the second part of that word indicates an action. So, motive power, right? So something that moves you forward or that drives you forward, a reason or an achievement, not punishment. Again, I read the book. The what was it? The Unexpected War. And I know there's other pieces of literary documentary about the Sandbox Wars that I should read. I really should, but I'm freaking poor. I'm poor in money. I'm money poor. I'm not asset poor. In which there's more than likely some secrets written into it right out in the open, because often that's what happens with journalists, right? And that was what happened is we started seeing journalists being embedded into these units and producing propaganda from their B-roll footage, and then the 24-hour news cycle. So you imagine all the kids who are hopped up, the ones that do happen to be carried successfully to term and then born and then raised in a wholesome environment in which their parents are supportive and challenging to their children. Shit. Freaking lost my train of thought there. Okay, yeah. And then they start watching all of this, right? And then they start questioning their very existence, and they start going online. They start using websites such as LiveJournal or whatever else. And in the early days, the information around, and I'm talking about when I say the early days of transgenderism, and I'm not talking about like 1970s or 80s experimental surgeries. which were really rare. And um, it basically, they start getting into this vulnerable place in prepubescence, and this person, this stranger on the internet, then becomes their parent, because they're giving them, it's the disillusionment of the environment that they've been brought up in, and then they become rebellious, right? And then the child then becomes an object of negotiation amongst the couple, if and when something happens. But in most cases, it did happen because the choice was an altruistic pursuit. It was to free people of the burden of slavery, which is a by any means a good thing to do, because slavery is evil. No matter what the form or the format of it, slavery is evil. So the choice was made, irregardless of whether or not there was weapons of mass destruction. No, I don't know. I wasn't there. All I see is the news reports. And at that time, I was a teenager, a very horny teenager. I wanted to fuck the planets, I wanted to see my dick amongst the stars. I wanted to place a Milky Way amongst my own skyscape. Oh my god. you know and again, there was no parental restrictions, and so you have this wide open source of information without any limits. And of course the child or is going to become radicalized. It's like, if you, especially in the world of um hyper not not hypergamy, but of hyperbole. Those two words are easily confused because they sound the same, but they are definitely not. A dog is laughing right now. Oh my Lanta. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so but here's the problem is again the lack of communication, or the miscommunication between different generations, in which the second wave feminists, they set up a world in which the opportunities were fair. But the young ones, the third wave, saw this and said, "Oh yeah, fuck you. We're not going to listen to you. You're not radical enough. We're going to start chopping off our tits and start growing dicks cuz we're going to fuck with the men. We're going to fuck with the men." And again, I've talked about this based upon different books like Female Chauvinist Pig, um, I Love You But Not Your Behavior, and then also Body Dressing, which is it's a manual. It's basically a grooming manual for transgenderism. It's freaky that I have it in my freaking closet. Yeah, yeah, I keep forgetting about it, but it's still in print. And there's other books from pseudo intellectuals that got themselves a master's degree and decided, yo, you know what? I'm gonna publish some books, and then I can convince people that they were born the wrong sex, because the hum and the hana and the hum the hana, fuck whatever. Uh and again, this demoralization campaign was off to the races, and it was going like gangbusters. And then you have all these bandwagoners that exacerbated the problem, because there was a truce. There was an unspoken truce amongst straights and queers. in the same way between whites and blacks, right? I don't go around fucking with black women. You see me fucking around with black women? No, I don't slap them up or any shit like that. So the same applies for black men and white women, but obviously that hasn't worked out. So we got a problem. You see how because you had people that were like, they were so hopped up. Again, the kids were all hopped up on behavioral modification drugs because it wasn't kosher to have aggression in the classroom because these feminists believe that the testosterone was the base of the problem, and too much testosterone, too much alcohol, and so on and so forth. That's what became described as rape culture or drinking culture, and especially if you mix the two together, it's like a perfect mix for a dissertation. Oh my Lanta. Yeah, yeah, this stuff is just so freaking whack. It is. It's so whack. Like how do you even convince yourself of something like that? Unless you have DID, but of course the influence altered the paradigm as to how we approach and treat different mental health conditions, in which basically DID or body dysmorphia was scrapped. But it's like, okay, but borderline people exist, and borderline people, as I watched the documentary the other day, from Beaverbrook, which is the super max of violent crazies here in Canada, or at least Ontario, and they were saying that there's a terminal the lady nurse, she was saying, well, how there's terminal diagnoses for physical conditions. In that era, in 2012, when they did the documentary, she said that borderline was a death sentence. It was untreatable. So borderline is correlated to BPD, so bipolar disorder, or other behavioral dysfunctions such as schizophrenia, or within the umbrella of psychotic, uh, psychotic conditions, because there's more than one. It's not there. Psychopathy is just one of a few of them, because they're really changing the definitions, and changing the definitions is exactly how we got into this issue. And I will mention Art Chad, whether he's happy with me right now or not, about semantic shift. Art Chad, you got to stop sucking tranny dick. You really do. It's not going to look good on you. And this pandering, you're trying to use these vulnerable people as your soldiers of a culture shift is really ethically questionable. I could say the same about some other YouTubers, right? I just watched this thing on P Diddy too, right? I know this is meandering a little bit, but like, he was going around. He was fucking with everybody. He fucking got AIDS and shit, and now he's spreading it in prison. Like that is a little too much for me to handle. Like I would just want to fucking shoot someone at that point. Ugh. Okay. Sorry for the pause. I'm trying to think of the next few sentences. Okay. If you haven't figured this out yet by 25 minutes, again, how different it would have been in Afghanistan if we had succeeded, right? If we had gotten rid of the oppressive regime that treated women as subhuman and wouldn't let them have wouldn't let them go to school, wouldn't allow them to do basically anything except house chores and lay on their backs and take some forceful dick. Like, I don't know how some people think it's okay to align with such a thing like that. Anyways, I hope you believe everything I say to be a true statement, and I kind of did a shout out to Sticks and Hammer today by doing this. But again, what if Afghanistan has succeeded? And how come we didn't do that for our own people? How come our efforts at home weren't enough? Because you know why? It's because of all the infighting and the power struggles. Because the generational change, and then like that's one of those crucial and critical moments in history. Again, where it's a perfect storm, right? And artists have a tendency to put things out there that have multitudes of meaning, and when they're speaking about one thing, this is especially true of women, that when they're speaking about one thing, they're actually speaking of another thing entirely, and that's called doublespeak, right? For those of you whose only book you happen to have read was 1984. I'll just leave you with that question. What if we had applied the same effort as we did to the sandbox wars to our own backyards? How different would that be? Do you know how intimidating that would be to the rest of the world? And we wouldn't have to fire a single shot, except at the people that stop us or stand in the way. Because what they want is destruction and anarchy for their own entertainment. They don't have a plan for the afterwards. They don't. And any plan that they do come up with will probably be shit anyways. Anyways, thanks for listening. This has gone on long enough.